In this video, I'm going to help you figure out how to identify independent and dependent variables. In a previous video, I talked about functions, and this is a function table, and on your left-hand side are your inputs, and on your right-hand side are your outputs. Your input values are your x's in your ordered pairs, and the outputs are your y's. Your domain are the list of all of your input or your x values, and your range is a list of all of your output values, your y values. But how does that all relate to independent and dependent variables? Well, your x values are your independent variables, and your y values are all of your dependent variables. How does that work on a graph? Well, you'll notice I just put the four ordered pairs that were in the function table. And what we know about a graph is that the x-axis is down here. It's this axis right here. And the y-axis is here. So when I have an independent variable, it's everything that is in the x spot. So the 15, the 24, the 36, and the 50. But when you're looking at a graph, they usually have a label. So your independent label goes right here on the x-axis. And your dependent label can be found on the y-axis. It's pretty simple like that. If you're a note taker, pause this video right now and put this little graphic into your notes. It'll help. Let's try a couple problems. The table below shows the cost of purchasing books for $15 each. Which variable is the independent variable? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we know that that independent variable is the input, the x, and which column is always the input or the x? This one right here. And so what's this letter? B. So that's the right answer. If it had asked for the dependent variable, then it would have been the D for dollars. The graph below shows a proportional relationship between the number of pencils sold, X, and the total revenue, Y. Now, if you don't know what a total revenue is, that really doesn't matter because they just told you which one was X and which one is Y. But the total revenue is how much money you brought in. So which label on the graph represents the independent variable? Well, remember the independent variable is here on the x-axis, so it would be pencils. Word problems can be a little bit tricky because sometimes they mention the dependent variable first and sometimes they mention the independent variable first. So here's what to look for in a word problem. If it is the independent variable, it's the one that happened first. It's what caused the other thing to happen. If it's the dependent variable, is what happens second. It depends on the other thing. So look at this. It says identify the independent variable. All right, the longer the nap that people take, the better they are able to focus. Well, what causes the other thing to happen? Does the nap help people focus better, or does people focusing better help them to take a nap? Well, obviously it's the length of the nap. And that would be that one right there. That happened first. Here's another one. Bradley is going roller skating. For every hour he roller skates, he burns 64 calories. Which item represents the dependent variable? So remember, what happens second? What depends on the other things? It's easier sometimes to figure out what happened first. Did he skate and then burn calories? Or did he burn calories and go, oh, I better roller skate? No, of course. Roller skating happened first. So the dependent, what happened second, is the 64 calories. If you want to see what you know, pause the video and try these on your own. Well, the number of quarters you put into a parking meter affects the amount of time that you have on the meter. What happened first? Did you have time on the meter or did you put the quarters in? Obviously the quarters in. So that would be your independent variable, the quarters into the meter. And your dependent would be the amount of time. Alrighty. Let's look at the next one. The battery power remaining on your MP3 player is based on the amount of time you listen to it. So what causes the other one to happen? Does the battery power cause you to listen to more music? Or does the listening to more music cause the battery to go down? Well, the independent variable is the amount of time you listen. And the dependent variable is the battery power remaining. One more. And pause the video again to see if you can do it on your own. I'll give you a minute to pause. Okay. So let's look at this. The more time people spend using social media, the less they read books. What do you think is the independent variable? So your independent variable is time on social media. That causes you to have less time reading books. All right, the next one. The height of the bean plant depends on the amount of water they receive. Well, the word depends is easy because whatever depends must be the dependent variable. Your independent variable is the amount of water received, and the dependent variable is the height of the bean plant. Here it is in a nutshell, and if you haven't put it in your notes yet, maybe now is a good time. And then after that, go work on your own and have some fun.